Before someone comments about it, I'd like to briefly acknowledge that my entire fit has in fact changed since I got out of my car just a second ago. It's movie magic, just like what we're gonna talk about in this video. I made a video a while ago about how you can use sound design to take your transitions to the next level, and those techniques still stand up, but today I want to talk about something a little different and a little further into the sound design realm, which is using sound design as transitions, not to complement transitions where we have a visual transition and we're gonna put sound design over it in addition to enhance it. Today, we don't even have a transition in the shot and we're gonna use sound design instead to smooth out the cut. All the sound effects I'm going to be using in this video, as well as all of the sound effects and a lot of the music I use in most of my other videos, is coming from Epidemic Sound. It's a great place to get sound effects as well as music, and as you know, they're the homies, and there's an ambassador link in the description where you can get a free 30-day trial and support this channel a little bit in the process. I figured I'd start this video off with the technique that requires the least amount of actual thought, and that's just atmospheric transitional sound effects. These are sound effects that you probably already know a good bit about, like whooshes that build up to a point and then go back down, or risers that build up to the cut. These are abstract and there's not really a rule as to when you should and shouldn't use them. I would just say to make sure you're not using too many of them, first of all, because they do get annoying. Don't use them too loudly, make sure to keep it subtle, and make sure that they're emphasizing a motion in the shot. Don't just have a static shot and then there's a whoosh and think that that's going to transition it smoothly into another static shot. Doesn't work quite like that. Another technique you'll sometimes have the option of using is to take two sound effects that sound very similar and put them together to transition between two shots. It's basically like a match cut with sound. For example, in the intro to this video, I had a shot of me putting silverware back in a drawer that was followed by a shot of me picking up my keys. So I took those two sounds of the metal pieces kind of clanging together and used those to transition between the two shots. In a video I made earlier this year, I used a similar technique where I transitioned between a shot of my alarm clock to a shot of my car, where you could hear the car alarm going off, which sounded similar to the alarm clock, so I just matched up the rhythm and used that to transition between those two shots. This technique is definitely the trickiest one to pull off because it's very situational and you've got to be a little clever to use it effectively in your video. So if you manage to use this in a video of your own, feel free to send it to me and I might even post it on Instagram to give you some recognition for coming up with that. The rest of the techniques I have to talk to you about today are definitely not as complicated as that one, but they still make use of the sound effects that are in your shot rather than transitional atmospheric sound effects like whooshes and risers. Basically, it's all about coordinating cut placement with the sound effects. For example, having sound effects in your shot build up to the cut. It's kind of like a riser disguised as the actual sound effects in your shot. To give you an example, if you have a shot of someone turning on their car engine, then you can take the sound of the engine trying to turn on in the first shot. You know, it's getting colder now, so it takes a while. And then when the engine actually turns on, that loud point is when you can actually cut to the next shot and then let that sound play out throughout that shot. You can also just have the sound effects from one shot continue into the next one. This can be briefly, like having it sort of like a whoosh where it fades out into the next shot, or you can have the sound design be, you know, there through several shots, like just some background sound that ties them all together. Either way, it's gonna make those cuts less jarring, and as simple as it may sound to have the sound effects continue throughout multiple shots, it's something that's very overlooked by a lot of filmmakers. Finally, you can just try cutting on a loud point in the audio. So for example, in the intro to this video, I lined up the cuts from one shot to another with the sound of me closing the trunk of my car. So that loud point, having the cut on that loud spike in the audio, for some reason just makes it a little bit smoother. Maybe it's just me. If there's any big takeaway from this video, it's just to not think about sound on a shot-by-shot basis, but instead as something that is separate from your visuals and can flow throughout them and connect multiple shots. A good exercise for getting the hang of this is to nest your entire sequence before you start doing sound design. This way you don't even see where the cuts are, so you're not incentivizing yourself to just go through each shot and do sound design separately. All that being said, I'm looking at my camera LCD right now and it says I've only been recording for 13 minutes. I'm assuming this is gonna turn out to be a pretty short video, but I hope you still picked up some new techniques from it despite that. If you did, do feel free to show your support by leaving a like on the video, sharing it with your friends, or even subscribing to my channel. I upload new filmmaking tutorials every kind of week or so. Schedule's been pretty flexible lately, but that's what I've been shooting for every 1 or 2 weeks. So subscribe to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.